As an IT industry analyst, my job is to talk to end user organisations and vendors about new technologies that are likely to impact the world of work and business processes across all sectors and industries and indeed geographies. People, process and technology are the key elements that drive businesses forward and stimulate growth. Now, organisations obviously have their own IT strategies where they take a measured approach in adopting new technologies. And if we look at industries such as banking and financial services, they tend to do that in a fairly steady approach, one that doesn't rush out ahead of the market oftentimes. Unless, of course, it provides an opportunity to leapfrog the competition. So CEOs are always having this thought in mind: do we go early with a new technology, or do we risk being overtaken by the competition? Now, from an employee perspective, many of us are looking for new tools and technologies to help us get our job done quickly, more efficient, and oftentimes that involves adopting a untried technology so far as the business is concerned, but we feel confident using that. But it does present some sort of concerns for business leaders and of course for the IT department, whose job it is to run a well-governed ship in that regard. Flexibility and agility are important to every organisation, of course, but particularly in those industries where things are moving forward fast at great pace. And if we look, for example, at the banking and capital markets industries, technology is seen as a huge enabler of winning new business there, particularly engaging with customers. And indeed, sort of 9 out of 10 CEOs in that sector see mobile technology specifically as being super important to them. And indeed, when we look at our own Ovum studies, the data sort of tells us that organisations in these sectors are looking to invest in new technology as well, helping the employee get more done wherever they are and whatever device they're using. So I might start work on a document connected to a legacy file server, for example. It might be a spreadsheet model that I'm then going to take with me and sort of work on my tablet or my iPad, or I might well hand that task over to a colleague. But when I get off that plane to go and meet the customer, that data needs to be synchronized and up to date immediately, so that I'm working from the latest information and that there is no doubt that that is the case. Confidence and reliance on collaborative technologies is important to all of us. Nobody wants to feel a fool when they're collaborating with people inside the organisation, let alone outside of it. And indeed, we're increasingly collaborating more with people outside of our organisations. And in some sectors, this is seen as a growth agent. So if we look at the banking and capital markets, for example, the CEOs there tell us that around 40% of their new business is likely to come from joint ventures and working with organisations externally. Those might be new technology companies or any other organisation that can give them access to new customers. Now, for us as employees, we don't want to have to sort of learn new tricks just to get the job done. If we're happy with the tools that we're working with on a day-to-day basis, ideally we'd like to sort of slot them into these new collaborative business processes, even though they perhaps are now starting to extend well beyond the corporate firewall and indeed moving to those mobile devices that many of us now carry around with us. Confidence and reliance are also important from an IT perspective. If you're an IT purchaser or decision maker, you want to know that the vendors you're going to be partnering with not only are reliable and able to deliver the product and functionality that you're after, that goes without saying. Of course, you want a good return on investment, but you also want to ensure that they understand your industry, particularly if you're operating in regulated industries such as banking and capital markets. And it's also important to have that geographic reach and range, because yet again, organisations are doing business right around the world now. And so it's critically important that you have the ability to support products and solutions wherever they might be being used. And being used is the operative word here, because we're not now talking about a data centre in one country anymore. We're talking about operations that span the globe. Compliance and auditability are key features when you're looking at new tools, particularly when operating in regulated industries such as banking and capital markets. The IT department, of course, wants to ensure that it can prove to auditors and regulators that it's abiding by the letter of the law, but equally employees want to do the right thing. Nobody wants to get into trouble from their line manager, let alone see their company's name in the wrong sort of headlines in the newspapers. And so we have to sort of find solutions that not only satisfy the end user requirement to get work done, we don't want to put barriers in people's ways, but we also want to ensure that we're able to address those IT demands that are so important for enterprises operating in markets where a full audit trail is mandatory. Managing risk, compliance and security are more important now than they've ever been, particularly as information is spread over so many data centers and information repositories. You might be using on-premise systems, you might be using a new cloud system or a hybrid arrangement. So the IT pros need to know what they're managing and need to have confidence that they're able to manage equally well the system, whether it's running on-prem, cloud or hybrid. And this is why IT decision makers are looking at single solutions that can address that whole requirement rather than selecting point solutions, each of which has its different reporting and audit capabilities. Security and trust are of paramount importance for companies operating in regulated industries. And when we talk to CEOs, for example, in the banking and capital markets industries, the overwhelming majority of them, 79% in fact, tell us that their concerns around cybersecurity in general are a distraction from the business. Now, as employees, of course, we're trying to focusing on getting the job done. And to do that, we use a variety of tools. Increasingly in this mobile world, which is cloud connected, we're self-selecting those tools ourselves. And indeed, a recent Ovum survey suggests that of those people using that technology to get work done, nearly 90% of them are using at least one consumer product. Now that presents some challenges, of course, for the IT professional who's trying to keep everything in control, everything ordered and everything secure. But if they don't know what apps are being used and where the company data is being stored, that presents real challenges, which again detracts from the core business. We all know that the banking and capital markets sector has a huge investment in IT legacy, and we don't want to throw that away or we don't want to dispose of it, but we need to move all of this technology forward and to enable it through enterprise mobility technologies and products and solutions, many of which you're probably implementing right now. But when we do that, we need to ensure that we remain compliant, that we satisfy the regulators, and we're able to address the issues within our industries. And ultimately, it's about moving forward in a progressive way, using technology to run businesses better.